Well, it certainly wasn't pretty for the Ducks on Friday night as we lost the Pac-12 championship game to the Huskies to another close 3-point loss. The Ducks are now 0-3 against Washington in their last three matchups, guys. It's becoming a little bit of a problem. And then, to cap things off, we got a Fiesta Bowl against Liberty that we got to talk about. Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast. We talk all things Oregon football. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's get into it, guys.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast. Talking all things Oregon football. With your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Yo, what is up? What is up, man? We're here. I got my pops in the building, Dan Peterson. Bring him in here, man. So we are kind of having a little bit of technical difficulties. If you see him freeze, I'm gonna try to bring him in, bring him out. If you guys see me bringing him in, bringing him out, because his camera and his phone has his frame freezing. So we're gonna work through that. Bring him in, bring him out, so we can see his beautiful face, man. My father, my pops, Dan Peterson in the building. All right, guys. So it was tough, man. Ducks dropped this game, man. We dropped it 34-31, man. It was tough. Matter of fact, I gotta bring this up. Forgot to bring this up, the stats and all that. Washington versus Oregon. We lost 34-31 against the Huskies. We just didn't come out swinging, in my opinion, man. We were down 10-0 in that first quarter. We did not come ready to play. Come the second half, the third quarter, we outscored them 14-0. We shut them out. Momentum was going all the Ducks' way in that fourth quarter, and we just couldn't finish it. Once again, I feel like Washington, being that undefeated team, being the championship team, they scrape by. They've been scraping by against common opponents. But look, man, they just make the plays when it was needed and when it was time. And especially in that first quarter, they just came out swinging against the Ducks. And I think that's where they lost that game, in that first quarter, when they allowed Huskies to take all the momentum, come out firing on them. And then you're down in the deficit against one of the best offenses, against one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. And it made it tough. Now, the Ducks did battle back. There was a moment there in that third quarter where it felt like the Ducks turned over Washington. They had all the momentum in the game and they got the ball back. And then, what do you know? They go 3-and-out. Washington scores the very next drive, and there it was, man. So, I just think that really the story of this game for me was that first quarter, when Oregon just came out falling asleep, did not come out firing, and then they were behind the sticks the whole game. So, man, what's kind of your overall takeaway of like the whole game, and how do you feel about some things?
Dude, that's it right there. It was just the slow start to the game, and they buried themselves a hole off the bat, and they had to dig themselves out from the beginning. Like you said, it's one of the better teams in the country, and you just can't start slow like that. And that's one of the things that you and I talked about on what are the keys to the game to getting that. And not only this game, but the first head-to-head matchup was to start fast. You have to start fast. You start slow, you take the legs out right out from underneath you.
Yeah, those slow starts will kill you, man. And another thing, man, while I look through these stats here in this game, is a big thing. One of my keys to the game, man, was to run the ball. Oregon in the first matchup, I think Bucky Irving was able to get 127 yards, while Jordan James right behind him had around 70 yards in the first matchup running the ball. Well, in this one, for Oregon, your leading rusher was Bo Nix. He ran the ball for 6 times for 69 yards, and that's your leading rusher. Bucky Irving, let's see, he finished this game with only 20 yards rushing on 9 carries, 2.2 on average. Jordan James, when he came in, he did carry the ball pretty well. He did his thing, but we only allowed him to carry the ball 5 times. We weren't even really trying to run the ball. And I mean, part of that was probably being down 10-0, being down early. But This is something you kind of said off camera to me, is that you felt Bucky Irving, we've heard reports about this a little bit, of him missing practice here and there. He doesn't look fully healthy. He doesn't look like the same Bucky Irving. And credit to Washington's defense. They did a lot of things up front. Braylon Trice, I mean, those guys were flying downhill. Those linebackers were definitely stopping some things. And they were pushing Oregon's offensive line back, something that their offensive line has done to other teams all season. And this time around, Washington up front, as a Duck fan, really impressed me. I came into this matchup feeling like the Ducks were the more physical team and Washington was the more finesse team, wants to get out on the outside. No, this was a totally different story this game. Oregon couldn't run the ball. Washington up front was running the ball. Dylan Johnson, their running back, finished this game with 28 carries, 152 yards, 5 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. Probably one of the better games of his career. So when you're pairing that type of run game with Michael Penix, who threw for 319, I mean, that's tough, man. And credit Ryan Grubb, Washington's offensive coordinator, as well, because he was confusing the hell out of Oregon. They were balanced. I mean, I think their first 18 plays, it was 9 passes, 9 rushes, and they were being effective. They were getting 5-yard carries at a time with Dylan Johnson. They were getting the ball to their wide receivers. I mean, Oregon defensively just really could not stop a damn thing in the first half. Come the second half in that third quarter, I felt like Oregon did a really good job about getting pressure, scheming up some blitz packages, and that's where you seen that run from the Ducks. But once again, man, they just couldn't finish the game. And it's been 3 straight years now where it's been 3-point losses for the Ducks against Washington. That's a total of 9 points, man.
Yeah.
It was the last Pac-12 championship. It was, the last laugh. And, it felt like in that first matchup against Washington the Ducks in 2022, it kind of felt like when you came out of that game, in my opinion, it felt like Washington got lucky. It felt like Bo Nix went down with the injury and Washington escaped with a win. Then in the second matchup, we go into Seattle. I feel like the Ducks, and Washington are pretty even at this point, pretty good teams. And may the best man win. Washington was at home, got a 3-point win. And again, it felt like Washington escaped with that win. It felt like the Ducks should have won that game. That's why in this game, the championship game, the one that matters most, man, this is the one that people wanted on both sides. Huskies, Oregon Duck fans, we each hate each other. And this is the one we wanted. And it just sucks to drop this one because now, if you're a Duck fan, what do we really have to say at this point? I mean, they beat us 3 straight times. And as much as I hate to say it as a Duck fan, I hate Washington. There's no team in the world that I want to beat more. But it's just tough right now as a Duck fan, man.
It's painful for sure. This one hurts. I mean, when you mentioned Bucky Irving earlier, man, he's the main guy that I always felt like he's kind of on the outside perspective of what he should be in the running for a Heisman. He's taking the pressure off of Bo Nix. We need him the most. And I do believe, I don't have the stats with him, but I think he leads the nation in broken tackles. He's really hard to take down, and it showed in that first matchup against Washington how it takes 2, 3, 4 guys to bring him down. He obviously wasn't 100%, but, that's not an excuse because at this time of year, everybody's banged up, both sides of the ball. But he was obviously not 100%, and you can see from the get-go, they didn't run the ball at all. It was a throw. The first throw was to the referee, if you remember that play.
Yeah. Referee got in the damn way.
Yeah, and, there was no running. They weren't even trying to establish a run, but, overall – with the play calling, the preparation, like you said, how much we hate Washington. I hate to admit this and say it, but they were the better team, man. They were well more prepared. They were just the better team that night, hands down. So it's we talked about off camera too about the coaches too. Dan Lanny's super young. He's only got a couple years. He's in his 30s, and Washington's he's been coaching a long time. So when it comes to preparation and these type of games, I think he's out-coached Dan Lanning in all 3 games. Mm-hmm. So it's growing pains with him, like we talked about it. And I think Dan Lanning's gonna be fine. He's a great coach, but these are the type of games that really gonna put him on, to kind of build him up for the future. So he's just flat out. He was just out-coached, and Washington was just a better team. Especially 9.5-point underdog, they were just way more impressive. They executed when they needed to, and granted, we had like I said, we dug ourselves a hole, but we had 21 unanswered points at one time, and it looked promising. But in college football, man, the swing of momentum can happen in a blink of an eye. When we got that interception, it looked really promising, but then Bo Nix throws it right back to a player who ran out of bounds and back in. And that was his worst throw all season. Everything that happened in this game was their worst performance all season. Their worst performance, but yet they still hung in there, lost by 3 to the number 3 team in the country. Or what are they? Number 3? Yeah. Yeah,
they're number 2 now. But they were. Yeah. And that's the thing, man. And you mentioned, being 9.5-point underdogs in the whole country, all the media. I mean, even me and you felt real confident as Duck fans. Coming into this game, we felt like Oregon's just on another level. We're playing like one of the hottest teams in the country. And I felt like Washington, they beat us. Imagine being a Washington player. They beat us twice, and they're hearing this. They're undefeated, not the Ducks. And they're hearing this all week. I mean, I'm sure that's probably came into it a little bit of a motivational factor. If you're hearing that all week about how your team is a 9.5 underdog to the team you already beat twice now, and you know you're undefeated, you're number 3 in the country, so they probably had a little bit of a chip on the shoulder with that. And then you mentioned also head coach Kalen DeBoer. Yeah, look, a lot of people don't know this, but Dan Lanning, he comes up through Division I, Alabama, Georgia, big time programs as a coordinator, as an assistant. And then he gets his first time ever being a head coach at Oregon, a big-time Power 5 Division I program. First time ever head coach. We're Kalen DeBoer to compare this. Kalen DeBoer came from Sioux Falls, a little school. I think it's South Dakota or Montana. I can't exactly remember, but Sioux Falls. He spent from like 2005 to he spent a good 6 years though. But he started there at 2005 to I think 2011.
And he didn't do championships at that level too.
Yeah, he was doing crazy things, winning championships, and that's where he got his start. So when he made his coaching errors in those first 6 years, which he didn't make a lot because he was winning a lot, he was able to do it where the whole nation wasn't able to see it. With Dan Lanning, he's going to go through, and this is something you said when he got hired. He's like, look, I like this hire because, you know, he looks like a promising coordinator and a promising a lot of potential, but he's really young with no head coaching experience. So there's going to be moments in his coaching career, and you called it, where he's going to have growing pains. He's going to have growing pains. He's going to have times where he messes up. And against Washington in these big games where they're needed, where it's like a must win, against Oregon State last year, there's been times where there's been questionable play calling. There's been questionable times. Maybe his team's not as prepared as the other, and it just comes out that way. But again, I think this is something he needs to go through in order to, you know, get to that next level as a head coach.
Yeah.
And you see Oregon's number 4. This is another thing I got to point out, man, is looking towards the future in this matchup as it heads into the Big Ten now, is Oregon recruiting. The last time I looked, Oregon was number 4 or 3 in the Big Ten recruiting, according to 247 Sports, while Washington is all the way down at number 12th in the Big Ten. So when it comes to recruiting and looking forward, Washington's going to need to get some guys, man. That's all I got to say.
They lose a lot of talent for sure. But, yeah, Dan Lanning came up a different way, though, with, you know, winning a national championship with the Georgia staff and coming up under good coaches, you know, Kirby Smart, stuff like that. So it's different how he's kind of coming up. And I do like his play call style. He is ultra aggressive. I like that personally, but those are the type of play calls when you want to be aggressive that it's like the best in the world when they, you know, when they fall short, like the previous games, you know, last year against Oregon State, last head matchup, going for it on 4th down or whatever, and they don't convert, and then they question the coach. You got to remember in this game, I think they went 2 for 2 on two crucial 4th downs again. And and I remember things were starting to go south, and I was like, just kick the field goal. And they're going for it, and it's like he's not backing down from the things that he's been questioned on before. He trusts his players, the players trust him, and you know, you're gonna, like I said, some games they're not gonna convert, some games you are, you know, and I still I hope that he still keeps it going and keeps doing what he's doing, because you know, I like that kind of aggressiveness. You just got to keep it going, but. You know, so
yeah, I agree. And the aggressive play calling, yeah, it's just something I kind of said in the recap and analysis episode. Like, when it doesn't go well, it looks bad. When it does go well, you look like the hero. And I think that, you know, Dan Lanning, that's just his character. That's his character. That's who he is as a coach. He believes in his guys to get the first down and to be the more confident team and to do that. And I don't want him to shy away from that either. So I agree, man. I like him putting his foot down and establishing that as his team's character. You know what I mean? So 100%.
They battled back in this game. They had to make a hell of a catches to do it. I remember the catch in the end zone right before halftime.
Terrence Ferguson, man.
Oh, man, that was a tough catch, man. Washington did not make it easy, but you got to give credit to the guys staying in there fighting back and making the plays when they needed to, you know, and those weren't easy plays to make, you know. And I think overall, you know, with who's that running back? Kenny Washington, what's his name?
For the Ducks or Washington?
For Oregon, he's the backup.
Jordan James.
He's played well, you know, but he's I don't think he's as good as he's good, but he's not as good as Bucky Irving. And I just
it's not Bucky's level just yet. Yeah,
I just don't think they had that balance going in this game. I don't think they were 100%, you know, to take the pressure off Bo Nix. You know what I mean? So
right.
I think
a part of me thinks too, like, because of Bo Nix's Heisman conversation and like him leading it, maybe they kind of game planned for him to really take over the game. Maybe they wanted it to be a pass heavy game plan for the Ducks. And maybe because that's something we did so well, and maybe that's something that they knew Washington was going to game plan for. That maybe that's what, I don't know. I'm not the coordinator, but I can only speculate, right?
Here's another thing too. And this can be, I'm just kind of conspiracy theorist on this. Being Washington, I think Washington knew in that first matchup that they're going to see him again, this rematch, and they tend to play down to their opponents. They struggled against Arizona State, Utah, Stanford. That's why heading into this game, it's like they didn't look the same. But I kind of think that Washington was hiding a lot of stuff, knowing that the bigger game's coming up, not to show too much, because this was a surprise. This was a shocker for a lot of fans. You know what I mean? That Washington was just a better team. Like I think that's probably what they did. They probably just kind of held back on some things, knowing that this was going to be the matchup. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I can see that 100%.
I mean, hats off to them. They won it fair and square. They were just the better team that game, man. It's like,
yeah, credit to them, man. They're the more physical team, the faster team. They came ready to play. They were more prepared, and credit to them, man. They won it and they could enjoy it, man. The Ducks. This is the end of the Pac-12. It sucks, that it felt like this was going to be a special season. You were even saying it, man. This felt like maybe the Ducks, one of their best all-time teams, man. I mean, they came in with a top 5 defense, a top 5 offense, and it felt like this is actually only the 4th time in Oregon history where we have 11+ wins. The 4th time. So
this team was clicking on all cylinders, offense and defense. This is finally have a decent defense to field. So it's been a long time since we saw a good defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and man, with how many good teams there is in the college football playoff, it really feels like, man, I can't wait for this 12-team playoff next year.
I can't wait either, because the teams that got left out, and Oregon being one of them, every team's gonna have a down week in the season, and here and there. But I think teams that have been left out have a legitimate chance of winning the whole. You got Georgia being left out.
Yeah.
They got the best odds of winning the national title all season. And they're left out. So, I mean, it's like Oregon's in that conversation too. Teams that are left out have a legitimate chance. They can compete with Michigan and Washington and Texas. You know what I mean? Florida State ain't been beat yet. I know the strength of schedule is down. How are you going to leave them out? So it's like, the 4 – we needed to play out for the longest time of coming from the BCS, 2 teams to 4 teams, but it needs to be expanded for sure,
Yeah. And this would have been the perfect year to do it with how many teams in the really 1 through 8, bro. It's not that separated.
Right.
For real.
Right.
All right, guys. And this is another thing is this video is brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. I'm in love with Mojo Fantasy. It's a crazy new app that turns sportsbook odds into fantasy contests. Here's how it works, guys. There are thousands of NFL and MLB player props. You build a portfolio, and the better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. It's a whole new way to play fantasy, guys. The props act like stocks, so you can buy and sell live all game long. It's the only fantasy app that lets you make moves after the game starts, so you're not stuck with a bad pick. You can cash in on a hot start or just hang on and let them ride. Cash contests are based on real sportsbook odds. Get the same live player prop selections and cash outs as our New Jersey sportsbook. Trade sports just like stocks. You control the action, ride your picks, cash out, or enter new positions instantly. And this is my favorite thing about this app, man. No house advantage. If you know ball, you can beat the crowd by building the biggest portfolio and climb the leaderboard to win cash prizes, guys. That's it. Make moves, make money, make picks. Download now on the Apple App Store and use my code DuckZone for a 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first time deposit. Link in the description for more. All right, guys. Appreciate everybody for tuning in here. So the Ducks, it sucks, man. Let's put it behind us, though. 34-31 loss to Washington. We're going to see them in the Big Ten. That's the good thing, is like this heated rivalry is not over. And our recruiting rankings, go take a look on 247 Sports. Dan Lannon's got this program headed up. in a whole new way. The recruiting rankings right now are going insane. This is December, January. This is when it starts getting really juicy for recruiting. So everybody be on the lookout for recruits. Again, if you guys want to be locked in for all things Oregon football, at DuckZone503 on all social media platforms for the quickest updates on all things Oregon football right there. If you're not already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button as well. If you're listening on Spotify, please rate it 5 stars. Appreciate everybody who does. I'm here with my guy, Dan Peterson, in the building. My father, my pops, coming through, man, on the pod.
Buddy.
Debut performance, man. Debut performance on the podcast.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. All right. Now, let's get into this, man. We got the Liberty Bowl game, and I know Duck fans ain't excited for this game. We feel disrespected that we got Liberty. Some fun facts here. This is the Ducks' 37th all-time appearance in a bowl game. They're 14th in a New Year's bowl, Six Bowl, and they're 4th in the Fiesta Bowl. The Ducks are 2-1 all time in the Fiesta Bowl with wins over Colorado, which was in 2002, Kansas State in 2013, and then we recently were in the Fiesta Bowl against Iowa State in 2021, but that one was a loss. For everybody who doesn't know, Liberty is in Lynchburg, Virginia. So if you guys were like, what high school team is Liberty? That's where they're from. No disrespect, guys. Hey, Liberty is 13-0. I got to come with some respect here.
But the Liberty fans are tuned in.
Yeah, man. And we got to keep it real. 13-0 is 13-0. But, man, Oregon is a 15.5 point. That's what they opened up at for a reason, man. Like you said this. If Liberty was like in the Big Ten, they're not going 13-0. If they're in the Pac, if they put them in the P5, this isn't happening. And look, I guess the debate would be, well, what happened to USC against? I think they played Tulane, and then they lost by a point. Yeah, man. So you could see the G5 P5 argument for Pac-12 school and a G5 team that this just happened last year. So we don't know, man. But look, this is the thing. Oregon, to me, it should be favored here by 15.5, rightfully. Oregon. They're going to be playing Liberty. They're number 23. Oregon's number 8, which they fell to number 8. They were number 5 in the Pac-12 championship. This game is a 10 a.m. Pacific time kickoff, 1 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN.
Get your coffee and Bailey's ready.
Yeah, man. Wake up, eggs, bacon, and a can of whoop ass. That's what we're serving. Oregon and Liberty. This is cool. If you're looking for a fun bowl game, I get it's not probably the matchup, the opponent you want. But look, guys, these two teams right here have 2 of the top 5 offenses in the country. So if you're looking for a firework game, put up points, a fun, exciting game to watch in the morning before the playoff kicks off, this is the game to watch. Now, the Ducks averaged the second most points in the country with 44.2 points per game, and the Flames are 5th in the country at 40.8. So this has the making of a back-and-forth game, a shootout, who knows. Oregon, they have the number 2 offense with an average of 547.8 points yards per game. And then Liberty is at number 3 with 514.9 yards per game with their rushing attack. Liberty's rushing attack, guys, is ranked number 1 in the country. They average 302.6 yards per game and 6.3 yards per carry. So that's absolutely insane. They're coming with a rushing attack. Well, Bo Nix and this Ducks is coming in with the number 2 passing attack in the country at 342.8 yards per game. So, look, I get it, man. This is disappointing. We're playing a team that we don't even know where they're located, which I just told you guys, Lynchburg, Virginia. But, hey, they're 13-0. They're undefeated. This is their Super Bowl. Liberty's going to come into here, and this is their to cap it off. And if their strength of schedule, we can go through their schedule. It's not good. They have not played a top 25 team opponent at all. Here, let me search up their schedule real quick, football schedule, Liberty. Yeah, let's go through it real quick. So I'm just going to try to go as quick as I can here and list all the opponents that they have played this year. But it has literally been cupcakes, like Bowling Green, New Mexico State, Buffalo, Florida International, Sam Houston, Jacksonville State, Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky is probably the best team they played. Louisiana Tech, Old Dominion, Massachusetts, UTEP. New Mexico State was a good game for them. I think that was their conference championship game. New Mexico State actually beat Auburn by 20 points in Auburn.
What?
So New Mexico State was pretty damn good this year, and they did beat them 49-35. Now, Auburn's a 6-6 team in the P5,
right?
But New Mexico State did go in there and beat them by 20. So
that's impressive.
It's kind of impressive, right? Yeah. So, I mean, and Liberty being 13-0, they got an offense. They got a rushing attack, which Washington, look, they don't run the damn ball, and they just ran for 150 on us and 6 yards per carry. And if this team is the number one rushing attack in the country, I mean,
I'm curious to see what kind of offense they run. Do they run like a spread? Do they run like an option, like a service academy wishbone?
Yeah,
I don't even know.
I don't know either, man. I don't watch a lot of Liberty football, to be honest with you.
To put up that kind of run, like what's their, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Like I want to see them on film. Like I want to see some highlights, idea of what the Ducks are up against. All I know right now is Liberty, and I'm just like, where's that? What high school is this? Like, I can't name one player. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking like Portland State again. Like, are they the same? You know what I mean? Like, really?
Yeah,
that's our matchup. Yeah. But this is still fresh, and I'd like to get some highlights on them, and more stats and see where they're coming from. Because this is a quiet, killing team. That's for them. They're stoked. They're excited for this matchup. For us, not so much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, they're like we've seen when we played Washington. Man, this team's gonna come out firing against the Ducks. They're looking to win this and prove that they can beat a Power 5 team and go 13-0 in their conference and be one of those special teams for their history.
I would almost guarantee you this is their biggest game ever.
Probably in their program history, man.
Yeah.
And their fans are gonna come out. Our fans are probably not, to be honest with you. So this is gonna be big for Liberty. And Saunders over here saying, no, bro, Liberty's a borderline FCS school.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that for sure.
Disrespected, he says.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I'm kind of debating whether or not I don't even know. They just announced Bo Nix said he's going to play, but you got a lot of other NFL-bound type players that I would assume and guess that he wouldn't play. And these other, Tez Johnson and all these guys, Troy Franklin. I just don't see them playing in this. I don't see the motivation in this. I see like Ty Thompson and Novastad getting their time in. That guys are coming up to be more, motivated for them. Rather than guys that got an NFL future ahead of them, you know what I mean? So that's the next question is who's playing, you know what I'm saying? Because, is Liberty's best players our level at their third string would be at, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Our second stringers. I think that would be an equal matchup right there, because if our starters sit out and we're playing our backups, maybe this is an even game, you know what I'm saying? It just all depends on what's going to happen and stuff. So that's the next question coming in, and we just saw that Bo Nix says he's playing, so that's big news. But it's just a weird, odd matchup, man. You would think that we would have drawn Ohio State, or I would have liked LSU myself personally. I would like to see a Jaden Daniels versus Bo Nix and 1 and 2 Heisman. That's a to watch and let Wisconsin play this team. You know what I'm saying? So. It's just a weird draw. I don't know how it is. I don't know if it's contracted this way, but to me, it just doesn't make sense. But it is what it is. That's our opponent now, so it'll be interesting to see what next coming in this next couple of weeks of who's actually going to play. Because that's gonna change a lot of things going into the game.
Yeah.
So
right, might change the betting line, all that kind of stuff. So this is the thing, man. It's like, you mentioned it. We're playing Liberty, odd matchup. Like, how did we get Liberty? I don't understand, because I get there's contracts to different conferences and stuff like this, but I was expecting like maybe Ohio State, maybe Penn State. They were talking maybe Missouri.
Right.
And you said that LSU plays Wisconsin.
Right. Wisconsin's 7-5. They're not even ranked. And Wisconsin's at a respectable conference. To me, I think a Liberty versus Wisconsin would be even for Liberty, that would be a big game. To play a 7-5 Wisconsin team. For them, that would still be their biggest game. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, man.
And then you would get
the strangest everything. The playoff selection, the bowl games. This is the strangest I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it would make, like, if you wanted to have TV ratings, if you're sitting there making the bowl games and you're like, hey, what games are going to get the best eyes? Jaden Daniels versus Bo Nix has been talking about for the Heisman the whole time.
Right there. That's going to be, don't they have that awards next week? So,
it's coming up sometime here in December.
Yeah, and that's, Bo Nix cross my fingers, hope he gets it. But Jaden Daniels looks like he might be in the driver's seat right now. That's just my opinion, though. But
most
connect to both of them, though.
Yeah, and they've both been talked about. Like, and the argument is Bo Nix has, led his team to the college football playoff. We're the winning team. Well, I feel like since we took that loss to Washington, that kind of takes down that argument for Bo Nix. And
I agree.
The whole argument for Bo Nix is, well, he has his team right outside the college football playoff. I guarantee if he won that game, it's a lock for him to be the Heisman. Yeah. But the fact that he lost it now, and Jaden Daniels just has, I think he has. If we're counting rushing yards and passing yards together, Jaden Daniels has 1,000 more yards than Bo Nix. So the season he's having is really impressive. And this is another thing to think about is, the most of the Heisman voters who do get to vote for the Heisman, most of them are in the South. So it's going to go towards an SEC quarterback, right? So yeah. Well, yeah, man. Oregon comes out here as a big time favorite. Not too excited about it. I'm going to do a preview and prediction episode as we get closer to the game, guys, and we'll try to get more info, more insight on Liberty, who their players are, because, man, I got to tell you, I don't watch much Liberty football. I don't know much about them. I do know they're 13-0. I do know they can run the ball. They're number one in the country at running the ball, and I do know they could put up some points because they average 40 points per game. So, interesting draw here. This is the thing I got to say to Duck fans. This is the most important message I want to say is, look, I get this is an opponent where we feel like we're going to dominate, but how embarrassing would it be if we're all up in the comments and we're all making posts about, oh, what the hell, this is going to be a blowout. Why do we even play in Liberty? And then Liberty comes out and beats us. Like, we don't want that to happen, man. So just try to show a sign of respect towards a team that is 13-0, and then if we come out and stomp them out by 28, then that's what's supposed to happen, right? There's no reason to really celebrate that. You know what I mean? So
especially if we got all 100% of our starters playing too.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get into with before we end the pod is let's play a game here. So there's at Ducks Cruton. He runs the Oregon recruiting Twitter account, and he says, in my opinion, these following players have upcoming NFL/bowl decisions to make. So we'll start here. Just give your guess. Is he going to play in the bowl game, or you think he's off to the NFL? We'll just do that. We'll both give our guess. So we'll start here. Bucky Irving. I think he's gone, man.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
I think Bucky being an NFL like projected to go to the NFL and as a starter, and it's hard to get drafted as a running back. I think you take the chance of not getting injured and go.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I agree with that. Yeah.
So you think he's going to the NFL?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's because especially at his position, that's the main reason why I think. All right, let's go. Troy Franklin. You think he's gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He'd broken all the records. He's probably the best wide receiver in Oregon history. So I think Troy Franklin's out of here. Let's go. Tez Johnson.
I think he's okay, so before all this coming up, because it's still fresh, I'm shocked to hear that Bo Nix is playing. Okay, I assumed he's definitely not. Everybody's not. This Liberty. No, there's no motivation for this. There's none at all. This is what I assumed, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Right before this podcast, we got the news that Bo Nix said he's going to play. Johnson, the brothers, I think that motivates Tez to play one last time on the field together. Because if Bo plays, I think Tez plays.
I agree. I think Tez coming back just because of that reason too. That's a good point. Yep. And then tight end Terrence Ferguson, who made that big one-handed catch right before the half. Ooh, I think Bo coming back, man, is a big motivational factor for a lot of guys to come back.
It could change everything. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Terrence Ferguson, he's a good tight end, but I don't think he's like a first round draft pick or anything. No. So I think he has a little bit more to prove. I think he's going to play in this one.
Yeah, I say he's late rounds, maybe undrafted, but I think he's borderline right there to get picked up. But I think he plays. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, offensive tackle Johnny Cornelius. Again, I think the same thing, man. I think this Johnny Cornelius has still more to prove, more tape to be put out there. I think he's a damn good player, but not to where he's good enough to just say, "No, I'm not going to play in the bowl game. I got enough out there already." Like a Troy Franklin might be. I think a Johnny.
What year is he?
He's a junior, so he got another year. Yeah.
I think he comes back next year, plays it, and in this bowl game too.
Yep, Johnny Cornelius. Hopefully, because he was really good this year for us.
Yeah.
All right, center Jackson Powers Johnson. So PFF ProFootballFocus.com. They have a thing where they grade by position. Like if you're in the 60s, that's a D. If you're in the 70s, that's a C. Kind of like a letter grade basis, right? And the 90s would be an A. So all year long, Jackson Powers Johnson on PFF has been the best graded center in college football.
Really?
And I think that could be a motivational factor because he's really graded, looked well from the scouts and graded well, where he might be like, nah, man, I don't want to get hurt. I got good grade this year. I don't want to risk it. But again, with Bo Nix coming back, you might want to run it back one more time with his boys, with Bo Nix one more time and do it. So this one is really 50-50 to me because either way he chooses, it makes sense. But I feel like because Bo came back, I'm going to lean more to the side he might play in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that one too. I didn't know he was rated that high. You know, best in the country. That's pretty
best
impressive.
in the country. Yeah, he's graded as the best center in the country according to PFF. All right, here we go. Defensive end Jordan Birch.
He's that's a tough one. I think he. Speaking, which we didn't even touch on him when we talked about the game when he went down and he never came back, did he?
I don't think he did. That's a good question.
Came back, and that was a key loss when
up
he went
front.
Down. I remember I wanted to bring that up too, but because he's very talented, he's really good. But was the next man up. But yeah, that was a key loss. He never came back to the game. But I think he's very talented. I think he's got some NFL talent too with him too. That's a tough one. To me, it's like if you're not like a top 3 rounder, projected, it's hard to tell. But I think he might. I don't know, man. I think he'll sit out. So,
you think he'll sit out of this bowl game?
Yeah, because he's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been looked at. This is my thing, man. Is like he's got the body type for the NFL. Like you look at him, he's like, wow, dude, this guy's huge, man. Like. Over 6 foot, and he was a former 5-star in high school, came from South Carolina. But this is the thing, man. I don't feel like he's necessarily played like a 5-star. Not to say that he hasn't played good, but I don't think he's played to his level that everybody projects him to be, like a dominant Kayvon Thibodeau type, not even in the top 10. Like that's the way he was looked at coming out of high school. So. With him not having the season that I really thought he would have, like not to say he hasn't contributed, but I just don't think he's been dominant. And I think that's where he wants to be. I think he can be there. I think he can get there. So I think he'll play in this one if he's healthy, and I think he'll come back next year.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, though. I don't know. Nothing confirmed.
See that too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here to linebacker Jeffrey Bossa.
I think he plays.
Yeah. I think Jeffrey Bossa still he definitely played a lot better than last year. Last year, I think PFF, the PFF.com Pro Football Focus that we were just talking about earlier at grades players, he was listed as one of the worst linebackers in the Pac-12 last year. He missed a lot of tackles. He was right under 200 pounds last year, and he was one of the worst in the country at missing a lot of tackles, and he was just really underweight for linebackers. Also, he moved from safety to linebacker in Dan Lanning's defense last year. So it was his first time playing linebacker. But this is the thing is he put on 20 pounds of weight in the offseason, and he's graded as one of the better linebackers this season to PFF. Now, Jeffrey Bossa, I don't feel like he's all the way there yet. There's times in coverage where he can get lost. He still at times can get overpowered by bigger linemen. So I feel like another offseason of getting even bigger, getting maybe up to 230, 235, and getting another stint at linebacker, another third year at linebacker, and getting more expertise at your position will definitely benefit Jeffrey Bossa if he was to play in this bowl game and come back next year. All right, let's go here. Justin Jacobs, linebacker Justin Jacobs. This was the dude who was injured all year, came from Iowa. He was a number four linebacker in the transfer portal and came to Oregon. But he after the Washington game, we finally saw him came into play. Again, no, he was injured all year. I think there's got to be more tape on the film. So I think Justin Jacobs comes back.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Tyson Johnson. I think Tyson Johnson was a good player. I think he has has the potential to be elite. Like, he came from Ole Miss. He led the team in tackles. He by far leads the team in snaps on defense. This guy is a big part of the defense for the Ducks. Tyson Johnson behind there at safety. He plays the most snaps out of any defender on the team. I think he has the possibility of even becoming a leader of this team, of this defense next year,
for the defense,
because he'll be in his second season with Dan Lanning. So I think he'll be back.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, and then to wrap this up, man, so those are the players we think are coming back or not playing in the bowl game. That's just our opinion, not to confirm. The only thing that's confirmed so far is Bo Nix will be playing in the bowl game, and that's absolutely huge. Let's talk about this real quick, just a quick 5-minute conversation, man.
I want to say something right quick. Did you know that we had the fourth youngest roster in the conference?
Really? I did not know that.
Fourth youngest. Washington had, I think, the oldest roster. A lot of talent, but that also goes to show with the fourth youngest in the conference coming up too, with how well we did. It's a bright future.
Bright future. A lot of young guys on the team, and the latest recruiting rankings. I think Oregon's third in the Big Ten in 2024 recruiting rankings, and then Washington's all the way down to number 12. And man, how many times are you going to get a Bo Nix, a Michael Penix on your team, man, to come rescue you like that? It's going to be tough, and recruiting is part of it. Recruiting is a big part of it. So, you can't really go.
They're already spreading with Cam Ward and DJ's brother at Oregon State, Dylan Moore. Yeah. There's a lot of good talented quarterbacks already transferring, and the rumors are already coming around. So it's like, what do they do? Do they start going back to, with ties with them, or do you let Ty Thompson come up, DJ Novostad, all these guys?
Austin Novostad, Ty Thompson, those will be the two guys coming in that look to take the reins after Bo Nix. And I thought too, man, I thought this Liberty matchup would have been a perfect opportunity to see those guys and see what they got early on before the next season starts.
The Ducks just lost a quarterback too.
Yeah, they just lost the 2024 recruit Michael Van Buren after the Pac-12 championship. He's I think he's in Maryland. Maryland is where he's from. He also has got a teammate, a defensive back teammate, Ife Obadegwu, who is a pretty a borderline 5-star defensive back. And we all seen what Washington did to our defensive back this season. We're going to need some defensive backs in the future. And if his teammate decommitted, that's another guy that I'd probably have my eye on is Ife Obadegwu, his high school teammate. Is he going to decommit? Now, as of now, he hasn't. But usually we see that if another guy's teammate who committed with him decommits, more than likely they're going to come out and decommit later on. Now, that might be a situation where he decides to flip on signing day. I wouldn't be surprised, but just keep your eye on Ife Obadegwu, a 4-star corner who also was Michael Van Buren's teammate in high school. I think for Oregon, a quarterback situation, I think you have to take a transfer. It's not to say that I don't think Ty Thompson's ready or Austin Novostad's ready. Everybody has kind of their own opinion, but I just think the more talent you add to your team, it's like let the best man win. Why not bring a transfer in and see if he's better than both of them, right? You know what I mean? And if they're not, then that proves it.
They had a game too, like talking about the opponent Liberty and how it seems like the fans are unmotivated with this. I don't know how the players feel about this or the coaches. The coaches are always they're gonna try to keep that motivation up. But if guys are gonna sit out, such as Bo Nix, this is a perfect game for Ty Thompson and Novostad to come up, because let's say Bo doesn't play, Thompson's your starter, and we are playing with our backups, and he has a career game, 350 plus yards, blows them out in the Fiesta Bowl. Now that brings up the questions of what do you do for quarterback next year? If he had that type of game, what if, type thing, like that throws a wrench in everything. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, right. And we got confirmation that Bo's playing, so those two are going to be on the sideline. But yeah, I would have loved to see what Ty and Austin Novostad could have done against Liberty, but they'll have their chance, man. They'll have their chance, and I think if you're Oregon in the offseason, you go after one of these highly touted transfer quarterbacks and with experience and test those guys, make them prove it, make them prove that they're the starter. You know what I mean? So exactly. Let's talk about this, man. Florida State, undefeated conference champ, gets left out, man. George, who's the 4 teams? It's Michigan, Washington, Texas, and what was it? Alabama.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the 4 teams, man. And
can't leave the SEC out, man.
Yeah, that's that SEC bias, I guess, man. Damn, that's crazy. In my opinion, look, I get Florida State. They're trying their whole goal. The committee has been saying every time they come on ESPN, give their spiel. They always say our goal is to get the 4 best teams in, and if that's their goal to get the 4 best teams in, I'm gonna be real with you. I think they accomplished that. Let's be real. Look, Florida State, they don't have their starting quarterback. I heard they lost their backup quarterback. This is not a complete team, and I think they would get blown out by any of those teams who they allowed in. So it sucks to suck. You're 13-0. You did everything you can. You got your conference championship. You did everything right, but you're not going to be favored because you lost your starting quarterback. And how can you punish a team like that? I mean, imagine if it was the Ducks go undefeated. Let's say we lost Bo Nix in the Pac-12 championship, but we won it against the Huskies and we got left out. I mean,
that could have happened too. That
could have happened, man. But I just feel bad. I just feel horrible.
In their defense, they're undefeated, man. That's like, you could have done that. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they got robbed. I think they should have got it because a month away is enough time to have guys get healed. I don't know exactly their extent to their injury to their quarterback situation is, but you can get that's enough time to get some guys back, and get back to where they were. But yeah, I feel like they got robbed. It's hard. This is, like I said, this is the weirdest year to have the way they pick the teams in the bowl games this year, because even leaving Georgia out, that's just crazy to me, man. Georgia had the top odds to win the national title all season long. You lose one game by 3 points in a championship game and you're left out.
Yeah, man.
I mean, Georgia's that's a dang good team. They're back-to-back national titles. How are you going to leave them out? That's a bigger surprise to me than Florida State, actually. So I told you before this, like, if Alabama beats Georgia, that's going to throw a wrench in everything. And it sure did. But I think they just didn't want to deal with the Texas-Alabama debacle, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to get Alabama in. No, because Texas beat them. They blew them out, actually. It's just this is the toughest, hardest decisions to make, and what teams would have been in. What teams would you had in?
Man, that's such a tough call, man. I definitely probably would have had, to be honest with you, Washington at number 1. I feel like Washington has a tougher schedule than Michigan did. And they beat, the Oregon twice, who, all year long was respected. It's not like Michigan beat Ohio State twice. So I would honestly put Washington number 1, and I'd put Michigan at number 2, and at number 3, man, I would have to put Florida State there because they're undefeated. They're another undefeated team. So you put the top 3 undefeated teams, and then who's your best one loss? You got Georgia, who's national champ odds, probably the best roster in America, could beat anybody at any given night. Alabama, kind of same situation, but they lost to Texas. Now that's when Texas enters the conversation because they have the head-to-head. Yeah. But Texas ain't look good after that Alabama game, man. They kind of been skimping by, not really dominating opponents. Now they did dominate their last 2 games for sure, but I just feel like Alabama and Georgia are the 2 best rosters in America. They've been recruiting at that level, and to leave them 2 out, it's kind of crazy. But if you put them both in, then it's called SEC bias. So I probably would have definitely had Florida State in, man. I just don't. If you go undefeated, win a conference championship game, bro. Look at Ohio State, what they did in 2014. They were down to Cardale Jones and their 3rd-string quarterback. Nobody thought they were going to beat the Ducks that year, and they came in and won it with their 3rd-string quarterback. So to leave Florida State out and just to chalk it up as they ain't good enough. Kind of a sign of disrespect, man. And I would have had them at 3, and then number 4, I probably would have had the SEC championship Alabama in. I get Texas beat them in the head-to-head, but they beat Georgia, the number 1 team that is favored and 2-time national champs. I think Georgia won like close to 40 games in a row at that point. So to beat them, you got to have it. I get Texas has the head-to-head, and there would be an argument there, but the way Alabama has been playing since then, and the way they just beat the number 1 team in the country, while Texas didn't have to play. I think they played Oklahoma State in their championship game. So it's like I would have had Alabama at 4. I would have had Florida State at 3, and then Michigan at 2 and Washington at 1. What would you have?
Well, first and foremost, if you watch, if Georgia and Alabama played 10 times, both those teams would have won 5 each. Yeah. Any one of those teams would have been in, and and it probably would have been a 3-point game all 10 games. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, It is like it seems like they do. If you're gonna lose in college football, you want to lose early, like September. You know what I mean? And that seems to kind of, I don't know. Like it doesn't punish you as bad rather than losing late.
It seems to get forgotten about.
To me, I still feel like Georgia's the best team in the country. They got punished because they lost by 3 in their championship game just yesterday. So, it happens to teams that, you know what I mean? And I still feel like they are the best, but I would have them number 1. I would have Washington number 2. I would take Florida State number 3, undefeated, and I would have Texas number 4. And Alabama being left out, I know. Again, it goes to show it's late in the season.
You would be leaving Michigan out too.
I got Florida. Yeah, I got Michigan left out too.
Damn, undefeated conference champ.
It's hard to.
This is why it's tough, man.
This is a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, because every team has an argument. Like it's not like they don't. Mm-hmm. And man, I'm glad I'm not a college football playoff committee member.
I still feel like Georgia's the best team in the country.
I agree.
That's just my opinion. They're left out. They're not going to win a national title this year. They won't three-peat, but that's left out. It is what it is. I'm glad it's expanding next year because it needs to expand.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. That's going to be really fun. Antoine J. Swan says, hopefully Cam Ward transferred to Oregon, not Ohio State or Michigan. Yeah, because there's rumors of a big-time NIL deal over close to $1 million of him probably going to one of these big-time schools like Ohio State or Michigan.
I like Cam Ward too.
Yeah, Cam Ward, I would rather have him at any transfer, to be honest. There's Dante Moore out there.
He just didn't look that impressive to me.
Didn't look that impressive. Now you could, he's a freshman, got thrown into the fire, and he doesn't have the, as good a team around him as he would at Oregon. I think, dude, him decommitting and trying to be a starter in year 1 just proves like maybe even if you're a 5-star, you should come in, and he would have had a year behind Bo Nix. He would have learned a lot behind Bo Nix this year in this Dan Lanning offense. Like he could have had it made and probably been the starter next year.
I think he goes to Michigan State.
Yeah,
I think he goes back home. So.
Yeah, I've heard rumors that his mom is dealing with cancer right now. Yeah. So you can just imagine being that far away from your mom while she's dealing with that kind of stuff is tough. So 100%.
I like Cam. I like the guy from Oregon State with his brother playing here at Oregon. I think. Yeah. I heard rumors it's between Oregon and who was it else? It was some Texas A&M, I think, or. I think it might have been A&M. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
Yeah, I like Cam on better though, but I wouldn't mind that Oregon State quarterback either.
Yeah, I know Cam Ward, man. He reminds me of like Vernon Adams, man.
Yeah,
he can come over here and be like Vernon Adams, man. I think he would thrive at Oregon, but I feel like he's probably gonna go to like a big time school, like a blue blood somewhere, USC, Ohio State, something like that. I don't know, but yeah, DJU would be cool. I actually tagged when the news came out that he's transferring from Oregon State. I tagged his dad, Big Dave, in a post saying DJU to Oregon ? And he actually reposted it on his Twitter. Now I get these are like nothing's official with that, but hey, man, why would his dad repost it if that's not something in the mindset, right?
He was there for Oregon's spring game too.
Yeah, he's been there for a few games, man. He comes through when the Beavers ain't playing and watches the Ducks, and that could be a real possibility. DJU coming to Oregon, man. It could.
I heard he was kind of inconsistent all season, but he's made some big plays early on. He actually looked pretty good earlier in the season, but there's some things that if he does go to Oregon, like under his system, like things that can get worked on. And
100%.
Improved, so it'll be interesting to see what happens during this off season. To see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. Well, that's it for this podcast, guys. I really appreciate everybody tuning in once again. I'm Dominiqk Peterson, host of the DuckZone503 Podcast. That's my father right there, Dan Peterson, checking in, man. Duck fan since birth, man. This is how we come and go, Ducks.
Everybody.
Yeah, man. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Rate the podcast on Spotify for me if you haven't already as well. I'm going to try to get a preview and prediction episode for Oregon versus Liberty, the Fiesta Bowl. I'm trying to find a guest look, it's going to be real hard for me guys to find somebody who covers the team Liberty, but I'm going to try. All right. I'm going to try to get him on here for you so we can figure out what Liberty's bringing to the table, what kind of stuff they run, who's their players that we got to watch for, right? Because we don't know. I don't know a damn thing. So I'm going to try my best to do that. Be on the lookout for that. Also, guys, early signing day is happening this December, early National Signing Day. Then there's the final National Signing Day in January. So I'm going to be on the podcast, locking in with you guys and trying to get recruits on here that have committed to the Ducks, have signed with the Ducks, and, talk about what they're excited for to be a Duck. So stay locked in with me. As always, guys, go Ducks, and I'll see you in the next podcast.